And now to discuss the role of legislature, which includes rule of law, I'm joined by legal practitioner Dennis Osaretin. Dennis, thank you so much for joining on. We appreciate you for doing this with us. Let's get started quickly, shall we? What is the role of the legislature when it comes to, just overseeing the implementation of, laws? And how does it hold the executive branch, accountable?
Yes, thank you for having me once again. You agree with me that the legislature, as an arm of government, plays a very pivotal role in our democratic system and institution. Beyond the primary role of lawmaking, they are also supposed to, represent the people and hold other arms of government accountable in the way and manner they implement the policies and programs of government. But in our case here in Nigeria, it appears the legislature or the legislative arm of government appears to always be in bed with the executive, and they are really not alive to their responsibilities of holding the other arms accountable. And that is the problem to our democracy.
And I mean, I would like to ask why this has happened. Has this been the case? Did this just, sort of deteriorated to gotten to the point where, they seem to be in cahoots or in bed, as you put it?
Yeah, for me, I think the challenge will always start from the way and manner they are elected into office. Many of them, they bulldoze their way into, to government, without necessarily knowing the role, the pivotal role they're supposed to play as the true reps of the people. I think that's the challenge. It is the recruitment process. Many times, many persons get elected to the legislative arm without necessarily understanding the constitutional functions or their roles as spelled out in our laws, and that is a problem. And I think we need to really engage in some form of advocacy to educate them, to make them reawaken their minds to their constitutional role. That is the starting point.
Now, one of the roles that I'm privy of, that I actually know about, is that they're to ensure representation of diverse interests and perspectives, right? But how can they ensure
Absolutely.
that? How can the legislature ensure, all of this in the lawmaking process when it seems to be don't even understand what the function is in the beginning?
Yeah, of course. That is where the press come in, the people come in, and the people they are representing. They must always hold them accountable. We must use the avenue of days like this, which is the democracy day, to remind them of their core mandate, their core responsibility, which is to represent the interests of their constituents. Because if they don't remember this core value, there is no way they can hold the executive, to account. It's not the duty of the legislator ordinarily to be building roads and bridges, to be building bricks and mortar. That is not their function. That's not their responsibility. But it appears that the only concern these days is for them to begin to get themselves involved in the way and manner contracts are awarded. They have left the all-important responsibility of lawmaking and policy formulation to dragging and begging for contracts, and that is, for me, is the challenge. Beyond just the issues of a budget approval and padding and unpadding of budget, what other functions can you really pinpoint that this National Assembly or the legislative arm of government is good at? So for me, the people need to continue to remind them and hold them accountable so that they can redirect their path to the core functions of lawmaking, policy formulation, representation, oversight, implementation of the policies and programs of government. When the people begin to realize and begin to hold them to account, we may still be having this monster in the room.
Now, one of the things that we're certain of is when it comes to legislatures, to balance the individual rights and freedoms with the need for, for public order and national security, especially when it comes to drafting laws. That's very crucial, right? But how does the legislature balance these things, when it comes to individual rights, freedoms with the need, for public order, as well as, national security?
Yeah, the legislative arm or the legislators must first realize that we have a country, we have a nation to build. If we proceed from this background, we begin to understand that, for example, recently we had the burning issue of the need to have ranches across the country. While we, consider the fact that every Nigerian has a right to stay and move, across the length and breadth of the country, we also realize that the average farmer in Benue State, the average farmer in the South, in the Southeast, also deserve the right to property. So we must be able to balance some of these rights and privileges to the overall development of a nation state. So this idea of always appealing to parochial sentiment and regional sentiment far and above our national interest is for us the bane of our democracy. So our legislators must play their pivotal role in reorienting their constituents to remind them that we must first have a country before we can begin to enjoy our rights and privileges.
And I mean, you make a case there, but let's look at, the parliamentarian, or parliamentary procedure that guide the conduct of legislative business and how they are enforced. What are the principles of this procedure and how is it enforced?
Yeah, for me, the starting point will always be the Constitution, because the legislative arm, like we have always, argued, is a creation of law. And by their configuration, it's supposed to be the benchmark, for our democratic practice and, principles, because it appears to be the coalition, the largest representation of the people. Because, for example, if you look at the Senate, every member, every constituent, every region of the country ought to have a representative, at the level of the National Assembly. But whether or not these members who are elected still, remember where they are coming from, that for us is the challenge. So we must continue to advocate that probably it's high time we to also look at our constitution, look at the legal framework, and see whether this current bicameral legislative system is becoming a burden. Because we have also argued that even though we consider the fact that our people need to be represented, we must also now begin to realize that there is a burgeoning cost of governance. So by the time you now having a very bloated budget for the legislative arm, and it appears to be that the legislative arm is now becoming the sinkhole in our budgetary system. So how can these individuals give value for money? So these are some of the issues that we now also begin to look at in way and manner these in this arm it runs and begin to contribute to our democratic systems.
Well, Dennis, many thanks. Very solid analysis so far. Appreciate you for doing this with us.
Thank you very much for having me.